Welcome back to a very special edition of Beth Rigby Interviews from Liverpool. Good evening. After a long break, we are back and we have a new Prime Minister. But today, we're not in London. We're bringing you a very special show from Liverpool. Just over there, the Labour Party have just wrapped up their annual conference. But Liverpool is far more than just a Labour heartland. Its vibrancy, its people, its football make this a great city to live in. But just a few weeks ago, Liverpool was rocked by the murder of 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbett, shot and killed in her own home. Her killer has still not been found. How can this be? Tonight, we hear from a former gang member and one of the stars of Liverpool Narcos. But first, Liverpool Football Club is the beating heart of this city. It's also one of the most successful clubs ever in the English Premier League. So who better to catch up with while I was here than Liverpool captain Jordan Henderson? Jordan Henderson, thanks so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure, genuinely, to meet you.
Thank you.
And behind us, we've got these kids playing football. You're sponsoring this programme to get more kids to play football. 30,000 kids involved. Are you concerned that kids aren't getting enough exercise or that their parents can't pay for exercise classes?
I think in the world we're living at the minute, you know, cost of living is becoming an issue, of course. So to put on free sessions for kids aged 5 to 11, I think is really, really important. You know, just to get them outside, running about, playing, meeting new friends, being in a team environment and things like that. I think football can give so much, especially when you're young. I mean, the smiles that it puts on the kids' faces, and I think it's really special with what this scheme is.
Yeah, and just in terms of kids, I was looking into it in terms of kids and exercise, and childhood obesity is on the rise. Recent statistics showed that overweight or obesity in year 6, so by the time kids are 10 to 11, it's 34% of children. That's quite a lot, isn't it?
That sounds a lot, yeah. So, yeah, again, when I was a kid, you know, you didn't have so many computer games or social media on the phone, things like that. I think that's obviously evolved as time's gone on, and a lot more kids like to stay in the house, play on computer games and stuff, which has been the case for a long time, but I think it just increases. But I think stuff like this is amazing, you know, to get kids out, get them playing, get them enjoying it. And football is such a big part of this country.
And a big part of Liverpool, eh?
A big part of Liverpool here, definitely, a big part of society here. So I think it's important just to come and make sure the kids are enjoying it.
And you are quite unusual in the football community. There's, in the sort of amount of charity work and work for the community that you do, I'm sort of thinking Marcus Rashford obviously is really known for the free school meals programme, so he's dealing with kids that aren't getting enough food, and he launched that campaign. It made him a hero, a national hero, but it also made him a target. And I was wondering, with the work you do, you've got this massive platform and you can do this and promote healthy living for kids and football, but it's not risk-free for you sometimes. Is there sometimes a bit of jeopardy for you in going beyond the job, going beyond the football pitch, if you like, to do charity work or to promote causes? Or do you just think, I'm a privileged guy, I've got this great platform and I should just do it?
Well, that's it exactly, really. I'm not really bothered about what people think. I'm in a privileged position where I can help people. And if I'm passionate about something, then I'll do it. You know, things like this for kids. You mentioned Marcus, who's done amazing work off the pitch as well. I think that's really important. I think people look at footballers as if we're not human beings, but you know, when we were kids and the struggles that we've seen, for us to be able to give back it gives me great pride to be able to come here, and it's an honour to be able to try and give back to the community, not only at Liverpool, but where I'm from in Sunderland as well. Yeah,
so you sort of feel you have a responsibility to do it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I wouldn't be where I am today without the work ethic and the things that were instilled in us as a kid from Sunderland. So to be able to give back there is really important to me. But also Liverpool as well. I know how big football and how passionate they are about football here. And they've given an awful lot to me and to the team. So again, it's a no-brainer for me to be able to try and help kids and people in this area.
And your dad was a policeman, wasn't he? And so did he sort of have this sort of sense of public service, and you think that's the values you grew up with?
Maybe. I haven't really thought about that too much. I just think it's the right thing to do ultimately. If I'm in a position where I can help other people, then I don't see a reason why I shouldn't, just because people might see one or two things. For me, it's about just doing what I think's right and trying to help as much as possible. And
you, now you're very trim, you're clearly in shape, and you're still at the top of your game in terms of football. But is the charity work you're doing, do you see it at some point as a bridge into a post-Jordan Henderson football world? Like this might be the sort of stuff you might do in the future, you absolutely nowhere near that point?
No, I think charity work is something that I've always tried to do behind the scenes and always want to be involved in, and I hope that will continue right while I'm playing, and obviously when I finish I'll always continue to give back because I feel the responsibility and I feel like I need to really, and it's important for me to do that. So yeah, definitely. I think I'll just carry on as long as possible.
But I think everyone watching this, Liverpool football fans and England football fans, will want you to be carrying on the pitch for a little while. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit, if we can, about your football career. You're the Liverpool captain.
Yeah.
Let's just all pause there. Take that in. You're an England player. You've won the Champions League, the Premier League title, the UEFA Super Cup. What is the dream for you? Like, what do you do next? Is it a World Cup win? I mean, the Euro finals must have hurt. Like, what's the next goal for you professionally?
It never stops, really. You'd think that because you win trophies, that's your dream, and you sort of wonder where you're going to go from there. But actually, it makes you more hungry for more, to be honest. So every competition that I'm involved in, whether it's Liverpool or England, I want to win. And I give absolutely everything to try my best to help the team achieve that.
But you have been at this for a long time. You were in the Sunderland Academy when you were just 8 years old, like a little tot. You made your first team debut a decade later. You signed for Liverpool in 2011. You became captain. Did you think when you were like the 8-year-old did you imagine that you could do this, that this was where your destiny would be? Or did it just sort of evolve?
I think it obviously evolves over time, but I've always dreamed about being a footballer. I've always dreamed about representing my country. I've always dreamed about winning Premier League, Champions League. So I've always dreamt about them things, but you know, I'm sure there's plenty of kids that dream about that at a very young age, and I've been very fortunate and lucky enough to work with a lot of good people, have good people around us, and have the attitude and the desire to want to go and achieve my dreams. And yeah, luckily I've been able to do that, and hopefully I can continue doing that.
But it wasn't, I mean, the thing is, it wasn't always without adversity, was it? I mean, no one's career ever is it? I mean, in your younger days, you were really tested in the expectation of Liverpool when you first joined. You were a pretty young man at that point, weren't you? And I think after a year of signing you, they nearly sold you, or they wanted to sell you to Fulham. That must have been, was that really difficult for you? Was that like a...
At the time, it was a difficult moment in my career. I've spoke about it a few times. So at the time, yeah, a young player coming into Liverpool, it was a difficult period. But looking back, it was an important period for me developing as a person. It made us stronger, and actually I wouldn't change that path at all. I felt as though that time really did make us a lot stronger mentally, and it's helped us deal with a lot more going forward.
Built resilience. Do you think it made you more empathetic as well? Like, I've noticed that you are quite cognizant. You were talking about social media, like you're quite cognizant about people's mental health issues or being different and feeling excluded. I was thinking about that tweet you did after that non-binary fan posted about feeling scared about going to a game because they were wearing makeup, and you were really kind about that. Do you think that is linked back to some of the things you struggled with when you were younger?
I think in the stuff that I've done in the past around mental health and things like that definitely is something that when I look back, I experienced difficult times, and I think when you're playing at the level that I am, you're going to go through tough times, and the pressure is high, but that's the world we live in, and it's about how you deal with that, the processes. And I was lucky enough to have really good people around us, and again with the tweet and things like that. For me, it's about doing the right things and trying to help people and make people feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, football is for everyone. And you should feel comfortable wanting to go to watch a football game or wanting to come to a coaching session, whatever it may be. Everybody should feel comfortable doing that.
But it's important, because if people like you don't point that out, then a lot of people feel excluded, but it can put a target on your back sometimes, but you're prepared to do that.
Yeah, because again, it's the right thing to do in my mind, to try and help people, because I don't think it's right that people are uncomfortable going to a football game at all. So if I can help in any small way, then I feel a responsibility that I need to do that. And
I won't dwell on this, but just in terms of the pressure, which I cannot begin to imagine what the pressure must be playing top flight, not just national but international football. You must have been very pleased about the draw against England against Germany. That was exactly what they needed, huh?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed because I felt we're so close to winning the game in the end, but I think that was a snapshot in terms of the mentality of the team. I think they've had a lot of criticism over the last couple of camps, and performances and results that we haven't had, or that we've had, hasn't been great, and we know that as a team, and you've got to go through tough times, and I think I've experienced that over my career. These tough times can actually make you go one way or the other, and
make or break.
And I felt as though last night was a big moment for us as a team in terms of the mentality. I think 2-0 down against Germany, it can go one or two ways, and I felt as though we responded really well, come back into the game, and probably should have won it in the end.
You're a leader on the pitch, you're a leader in your community, and with Klopp and Southgate, you also work with two exceptional leaders. What do you try to emulate from both of them? Like, what's the thing that you most admire about them, or the thing that you try and harness for yourself in your own game or in how you live even?
I think you're right. I think leadership is something that has got to be natural, but you can also improve and develop that as well. And I've been so lucky again to work with so many big personalities, big leaders, players, managers over my career, which has helped me. Jurgen and Gareth, probably completely opposite people, I would say, totally different, but have different qualities.
In what way?
I just think they're just totally different.
Are they?
Yeah, just totally different in terms of the way they work and the way they do things. And for me personally, obviously I've got a lot to thank them both. But especially Jurgen, since he came here, and what he's done for me as a player, and as a captain really, and as a person. I think he's helped us develop so much on and off the field. And he's been a huge part in me development over the last 5 years or so.
Why? Can you give me an example of how they're different though?
I just think that they're just, in terms of leadership, I think leadership can come in so many different forms.
So one's forceful, one's understated?
I think Jurgen is someone who you'll follow, and he's very much
charismatic?
Yeah, charismatic, and you believe everything he says. He's very speaks very well in front of the group and knows exactly what he wants, and we all follow. Whereas on the other hand, I feel as though Gareth has a different way about him, and will involve probably players a lot more and get their opinions and see how they want to go about different things, and it has a different way of working, and they both work. So it's fortunate enough for me to be able to see both sides.
And you can learn from different styles.
Yeah.
That is really interesting. I wanted to ask you about the pandemic, because you set up the money for the NHS during COVID, the Players Together campaign. It raised 4 million at launch. I don't know how much it ended up raising. it was an incredible thing to do. The then Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, I'm sure you saw it, said around that time that footballers should take a pay cut and play their part, right? And I don't want to get really into politics here, but Gary Neville said yesterday that's what inspired him to get into politics. Like, did you think that was a bit of a cheap shot from Hancock? Or were you just like, I'm doing my thing, don't care what you say?
Yeah, it was a cheap shot, I'm sure. And I don't know what the reason was, whether or not he wanted to deflect away from the pressure that he was under or whatever. But again, for us, it wasn't. We were already in the process of doing stuff, and yeah, we felt a responsibility as a group of players across the league that we're in a privileged position again. We can really help, and we all got together. All the captains got together. Raised a lot of money. There wasn't a figure
organised by you?
Yeah, well, us, I would say. Okay. We definitely done it. Of course, I was involved in that, but yeah, raised a lot of money. We didn't put the figures out there because, again...
I was going to ask you, it was 4 million at launch. Presumably it was a lot more than that at the end, but you don't want to say...
Yeah, we didn't want to put a figure, we didn't want to put the numbers...
Will you tell me now, or now it's passed?
No, okay. Because we never did. And we never wanted that to happen,
yeah, I know,
because
you didn't want the...
We didn't. We thought it would never be enough, really, and we didn't want people to know what it was, because I think no matter how much we raised, it wasn't so much about that. It was about everybody coming together to support people who really needed it at that time. And the money went to really good causes, and we just felt as though it wasn't right to put out the figure.
Do you sort of feel like you sort of ramped up the NHS fund? Do you feel like that, in terms of, I know you do a lot of charity work, that the cost of living crisis is something that you feel that is an area that you're going to want to kind of lean into or do more work with in the next couple of years?
If I can help, definitely. Yeah. You know, if there's areas that I feel as though I can help with, then I'll do it. And I've got to obviously know the information and be really passionate about it. But if that's something that I need to help with, I know LFC Foundation do a lot of work in Liverpool with cost of living and families and things like that, which is really good.
Olivia, you put her name on your shirt when you played a match against Bournemouth. How do you think what's happened to Olivia and her family's affected Liverpool?
I think it affected everybody in the city, really. I think, you know, I can remember my wife telling us the story. I didn't hear it, she told us, and it really struck a chord, really, you know, same age as my eldest daughter, and I couldn't imagine the pain that the family must be going through. So yeah, so difficult, which is why I felt I needed to put a message on the game, because it was so close to the game. Yeah. It was a little thing, I know, but yeah, everybody was hurting, and it was a really tough time for the family, and like I said, I couldn't imagine the pain that they're going through.
And just in terms of what's happening now, your dad, as I said, was a policeman. The police can't find who did it.
Yeah, again, that must be so difficult for the family. But in the end, I hope they can, and I hope they do, because I'm sure that's what the family want. But it's such a sad thing to happen, such a young age, taken far too early. Yeah, it did strike a chord when I heard the news.
And I'm sure that what you did also comforted a lot of people who were really struggling with it at the time. So I'm sure that, I know you said it was just a small gesture, but it probably made a difference to people. So anyway, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for your time.
Very much. Nice
really
to
good.
meet you.
Thank you. Well, we're here in Liverpool, and I'm joined by John Burton. He's a former gang boss, and now he spends his time helping prisoners find work. John, thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, that's great. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me.
Now, obviously, I want to talk to you about your life of crime, what you do now, and also some of the issues about crime in Liverpool at the moment. You understand that well better than most. But what I wanted to do is, you have such a fascinating, quite astonishing story. What was it like being a young boy in Liverpool in the 80s?
I loved it. It was great. I was Born and bred in Liverpool town centre, off Vauxhall Road. Moved onto an estate, probably 700-800 houses. And these were all people who had come from tenements, apartments, flats, stuff like that, and all moved onto this estate. So it was basically finding loads of new mates and loads of new families that moved on. And that's what we were. There was probably about 100 of us, the same age, all hanging around together at the same time.
How on earth did you go from this kid having a lot of fun, loving life, as you said, how did you go from that to, at the age of 11, selling drugs on the streets? What was going on?
I think when I was about 11, I think me and a group of my mates started smoking weed. And then from there, we started buying bits of weed and selling it to just get our own smoke and stuff like that. And then as you're growing up a little bit, people take notice. And then I ended up sort of working with older lads then when I was about 13, 14. And obviously people say I got groomed and exploited. Actually, I didn't. I wanted to do it.
You were named as the mastermind of a £1 million conspiracy to sell £1 million conspiracy to sell drugs across the city.
Yeah, that was in 2011. I got caught in 2000.
But are you like literally like have you become the gang master at this point?
Not the gang master, but because I was probably top of the tree. And top of the tree means it was me that was sourcing the cigarettes or the drugs. It was me that was putting it all together, and it was me that was sort of working with my friends.
So you're
and stuff.
running people now?
Yeah, yeah.
There are so many horror stories of gangs depicted in TV shows, on films, documentaries like the one you featured in, which was Liverpool Narcos. Yeah. Is it really like that? Was it a life of violence as well?
Yeah, when you're in a drug world, it can be, yeah, because what you've got to understand in a drug world, it's about getting your drugs into the country. It's about shipping them drugs around to different people, and then it becomes a problem when someone doesn't pay bills and stuff like that on it.
Were you violent? Presumably you have to be sometimes.
In them days, you have to be.
You went into jail before 2012 when you got the big sentence. 2011,
yeah, I went in.
So you've been in, yeah. You came out, and then you got the big sentence, right? So
I went away in early 2000, got out in 2005.
Carried on?
Yeah, come out and carried on. I got caught in 2011. I got a 9.5 year sentence, and then another 5 years on top of that.
Right, and then so you're facing 14 years in jail.
Yeah.
Is that the moment you thought, I've got to change? No? Oh, no.
I went to...
You go back in, and what did you do?
I come in, and I ended up going to a Category A unit, which is a high security unit in the prisons.
What does that mean? Is that...
So you're one of the highest security prisoners in the country.
Is that where really nasty people are?
It is, but that's where people think, but when you're a prisoner, you're going into it's normal people like you've been with. Some are serving 20, 30, 40 years in there.
You're in with murderers and really violent people, right?
Yeah,
I suppose you were a really violent person.
Yeah, but you come under that category when you're serving drugs, and if the police want to make you pay for what you've done, then they'll put you in like a Cat A unit.
You basically come out. What changed for you?
I was sent down to the Isle of Sheppey in Kent, and I'd had to do my last few years there, seeing what I put my children through, my family through, also travelling down there, 17, 18 hours on a round trip to come and see me for an hour. I just thought, you know what, it's time to sort of get a grip now.
Okay.
My family travels everywhere.
How long had you been in prison where you thought, OK, I can't do this?
3 years.
So you did 3 years, you're still kind of being a bit nefarious, really?
Yeah, I was barred from the Northwest,
so
I couldn't go to any prisons in the Northwest, so I was shipped out of the Northwest.
What, because you were literally organising?
Well, they said I had too much influence on prison officers, cons, prisons.
So you moved to that, and then you have this epiphany, you think, I can't do this to my family. Mm-hmm. So your epiphany was you couldn't put your family through it. You came out, you couldn't come home, so that must have been really hard. Mm-hmm. But then you set up this social enterprise. Yeah. What does it do?
So it helps people in prison, people coming out of prison, and it helps them to rehabilitate. And I'm like a funded disruptor. I don't like putting courses on that'll take 4 weeks when you just want to draw down funds, and when we can put someone on a week, 2 week course or a 3 week course, depending on what type of job it is, and just let's get them into work. If we keep people outside for 4, 5, 6 weeks on universal credit, not getting much of an income, the opportunities are going to come in front of them, and then before you know it, click of a finger, you're back in prison.
And you've been awarded the Robert Corbett Award during a ceremony in the House of Commons. And during the ceremony, Lady Val Corbett said, in this year alone, 182 people on their programme have achieved industry qualifications with a 98% success rate.
Yeah.
That must feel... Does that right the wrongs of the past for you a bit?
It does. And like someone said to me, how do you feel about getting your awards? I went, look, I'm honoured to receive an award. I said, but my awards is seeing people rehabilitate and get a life after prison. That's my rewards, watching people going into.
I just wanted to now talk to you about Olivia, what's happening here in Liverpool. On the 22nd of August, Olivia Pratt-Corbett was killed after a gunman fired shots into her home at about 10 p.m, chased by another man. This incident has not just shocked Liverpool, it's reverberated around the country, and everyone, parents, I mean, just everyone, like, for a little girl to be killed in that manner is beyond imaginable. How has it impacted the community here? And how do you feel about it as someone that was involved in this sort of crime and gun crime?
It's like now I speak to a lot of people about the ripple effects and think before you do. So when you go and do something and you don't think about doing it, then these are the ripple effects that happen along the way. And unfortunately, there was a young girl who was killed, and it's not on. You know, that poor girl was, you know, she was behind a door, but that guy run into their house. He had no right to run into their house.
And her mum.
And her mum got shot through the hands, and the same bullet went and killed Olivia.
Can you imagine how?
It's awful, it is. It's really bad. And, you know, and I know probably a lot of people in the criminal world are not even happy about it happening. But it's the ripple effects of not thinking about stuff.
There's a 200,000 reward being offered for information leading to the conviction of those responsible. It's the biggest reward in Crime Stoppers history. How can they not find this person? And how can people in the criminal organisations in Liverpool not hand this person over? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't understand it myself, but, you know, it's who it was or how it was done. No one's really going to know, but the police must have evidence and stuff, because they're arresting people for assisting offenders and stuff like that. So they must have names that they're sort of putting it down to.
Let me put it to you another way. Are you surprised that the killer has still not been found?
Yeah. But I look at poor Rhys Jones when he got killed a long time ago. There was names flying around everywhere, and they eventually got the killer in the end.
Is the person being protected by
I 100% couldn't tell you that, but you know, something's not right. But I'm pretty sure, look, the biggest gang in this country are the police, and I'm pretty sure they will catch the killer 100%, because they're putting everything into it to find out who it is, how he's done it, and what it is. And it won't be long before the killer's found.
John, thank you. Thanks for telling
you're welcome.
Your story. Thanks for the work you do with prisoners. I mean, it's a great thing that you do now, and thanks for coming on the show.
Not a problem. We've got to help rehabilitate people so they become better people in life. That's the way I see it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to our guests, and thank you to you two for watching. If you want a bit more, you can check out our Beth Rigby Interviews podcast, where you'll get the biggest guests we've had on. And also Molly Malone, my producer, and I will talk about the politics of this week. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. And also, why don't you send us an email, bethrigbypodcast@sky.uk. Always like to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.